How do we achieve immortality? When they asked Woody Allen that question, he replied, by not dying. James Dean's approach was to look cool, live fast, and die young. The Viking poem Havamal, the sayings of the High One, puts it like this: cattle die, kinsmen die, all men must die. I know of just one thing that never dies, the reputation a person leaves behind. In America, the latest craze is to put the address of a website on your gravestone so that people can log on to a website which commemorates the life and times of the deceased person in pictures, words, music, and even video clips. Cemeteries in San Jose and Hollywood, the forever cemeteries, say that they want to fill in the dash between the date of birth and the date of death with a .com. Is that how you want to achieve immortality? At the time of Jesus, the Sadducees believed that you achieved immortality through your children and through your children's children. Your name lived on through your descendants. So Moses said, if brothers are living together and one of them dies without a son, his widow must not marry outside the family. Her husband's brother, that is her brother-in-law, shall take her and marry her and fulfill the duty of a brother-in-law to her. So the first son she bears shall carry on the name of the dead brother, so that his name will not be blotted out from Israel. He shall achieve immortality, for his name will not be blotted out from Israel. That is where the Sadducees' question came from. And so you see, it doesn't really have much to do with marriage and whether you stay married in heaven. The question is about different notions of how one lives beyond the grave, of how one achieves immortality. But is that how one achieves immortality? By having a son who will keep alive the family name? Jesus answers, the people of this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are considered worthy of taking part in that age and in the resurrection from the dead will neither marry nor be given in marriage, for they can no longer die, for they are like the angels. They are God's children, since they are children of the resurrection. Nothing can extinguish your life, and so you simply do not need to pin your hopes on whether you will live on through the lives of your children and your children's children. Jesus says that we are like the angels. Not that heaven is some ethereal place where we float around, flapping our wings and playing the harp. We are like the angels in so much as they are immortal. They never die. They are free from physical decline and aging, immune to disease and suffering, and unharmed by accident or assaults on the body. There is a glorious and dignified existence that awaits us the other side of death. Now, this is crucial. Jesus does not rule out the idea that if we die, we are then reunited with our loved ones who have gone before us into heaven. He doesn't discount the possibility that we will be with those whom we love forever. He just paints a bigger picture. The Swiss theologian Karl Barth was once asked, will we see our loved ones on the other side? And he replied, yes, but with others too. Marriage represents the deepest form of personal relationship, the highest form of social experience. And Jesus hints at the fact that in heaven, our relationships and experiences are broadened and may not be as exclusive as in a marriage. But there's no doubt in my mind that eternity is lived and shared with those whom we love. Jesus goes on to describe God as being the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. When God was described like this, it was often in connection with his role as Saviour, protector, and deliverer. But Jesus said that it was not good enough to say that God had saved and protected someone by letting them enjoy a long life and by providing them with an heir. God does so much more. He makes it possible for us to live beyond death. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the very people whose lives were venerated by the Sadducees, were, according to Jesus, still very much alive, because death was not the end, and that their life beyond death rested on more than just the continuation of their family name. Not only does Jesus dumbfound the Sadducees, but he also gives us a glimpse of heaven as a place of perfect community and of life that is undiminished and eternal. The glories of heaven await us, and we know that what we have experienced and known in this world, even with something so precious as marriage, is but a tiny fraction of what we shall know and experience when we die. But if immortality is about a glorious and dignified existence that awaits us the other side of death, if all this is about heaven, then what do you suppose heaven's like? Is it like in the jokes with big pearly gates and St. Peter at the reception desk? Or is it like the cartoons, a cloud of your own, a harp and a set of wings fixed to your back, a glowing halo now hovering just inches above your head? Heaven is part of our vocabulary. We talk about going to heaven. But what do we mean? What do you expect heaven to be like? Rowan Atkinson in the first series of Blackadder said, "Heaven's all right if you like doing the sorts of things they do in heaven, like singing, watering pot plants, talking to God." Is that your view of heaven? Or do you see it as this poet did, writing in the Westminster Gazette during the First World War? As the fallen soldiers entered heaven, they saw far off a little wood stand up against the sky. Knee-deep in grass, a great tree stood, some lazy cows went by. There were some rooks sailed overhead, and once a church bell pealed. "God, but it's England," someone said, "and there's a cricket field." Is that your view of heaven? Or are you one of those who believe that there are places on earth which are very close to heaven, what the Celtic tradition calls thin places, where the distance between heaven and earth is almost negligible? Heaven, therefore, is like Lindisfarne on a clear, crisp morning, the sun rising over the sea and the gentle breeze bringing with it the smell of fresh salt air. It sounds like bliss. But C.S. Lewis once said, "In our present condition, the joys of heaven would be an acquired taste. In my present condition, Lindisfarne on a clear, crisp morning sounds rather lovely." But C.S. Lewis was trying to say that heaven must be more than a state of static bliss into which we are placed to remain forever and ever. That kind of instantly gratifying heaven is no place to spend eternity. Julian Barnes, in his book, The History of the World in 10.5 chapters, writes of a heaven in which people get what they want, what they desire. An instantly gratifying heaven. The man who went there went on several cruises, learned canoeing, mountaineering, ballooning, got into all sorts of danger and escaped, explored the jungle, fell in love lots of times, and best of all played golf on the lush green golf course. But after a while he grew tired of adventure. He'd complete the golf course in 18 strokes, and he'd run out of dreams and ambitions. What then? What was there left to do? His instantly gratifying heaven had turned into a hell of his own making. Heaven is all too easily ridiculed by cynics who doubt that anything can be that good, or by the narrow-minded who discount the existence of anything beyond what they can see and touch, or even by the religious who want to present to the world a credible faith and not one that relies on an element of real faith or belief in the incredible and the apparently impossible. And at the heart of the Sadducees' problem is the fact that they were so concerned with this world that they were unable to see beyond its horizons to the resurrection life that lies ahead. Because they refused to believe in the resurrection, they discounted the possibility that anything could be new. Genuine novelty had eluded them. They had become apostles of continuity, of extrapolation and derivation. They saw the future as being a bit more of the same, dished up. They believed that what we had was the only source of anything in the future. And so they were deeply, deeply conservative, traditionalist to the core, and opposed to change of any kind. The Sadducees also lacked hope because all they had was all they had. They had made compromises, accept half measures, and had kept their heads down because all that they had was all that they had, and they didn't want to lose that. Just for a moment, compare that with the lives of the early Christians. These amazing saints of God embraced suffering and death, torture and execution because they knew, as St. Paul put it, that nothing, not even death, could separate them from the love of God. They had hope. In the film Shawshank Redemption, Andy, one of the prisoners, is put into solitary confinement because he played Mozart over the prison tannoy system. When he's allowed to join the others, he talks about music And Red, a fellow prisoner, says that he played a mean harmonica as a younger man, but lost his taste for it. It didn't make much sense, he said, on the inside. And Andy replies, here's where it makes the most sense. We need it so we don't forget. Forget? Asks Red, still not getting it. And Andy replies that there are things in this world not carved out of grey stone. That there's a small place inside of us they can never lock away. And that place is called hope. The resurrection is music to our ears. And if we hear that music, we remember that there is a place beyond this one. A world, a heaven, whose joys and pleasures will never end. The Sadducees were not popular because for all their leadership they could not inspire hope. With no sense of newness or novelty, with no hope to offer, and offering little else to inspire people, they knew it was time to back off, because this Jesus had captured the crowd's imagination. They were rich city dwellers, but this poor country bumpkin from up north had come riding into town and amazed people with this talk of resurrection, with hope and inspiration. The people responded to Jesus' message, and they continue to do so now. Our world often fails to believe in novelty and genuine newness. Our world is often full of despair and devoid of hope. Our world so often fails to inspire. But we are in this world. And quite frankly, the sooner we Christians stop living as those who have one foot in the grave and start living as people of the resurrection, as those who've been freed from the chains of mortality, as people of an unshakable hope, the sooner we do this, the better. Heaven awaits us. We have been given immortality. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. Infinite and unending joy and happiness has been given to every one of us. So we must fix our eyes on heaven and live that new resurrection life right now. Take the risk of being hopeful, of looking forward. Inspire people with the vision that you have of God's great heaven. As Red concluded in Shawshank Redemption, the choice is simple. Get busy living or get busy dying. Amen.